So welcome. I'm just glad to have you all here today. I want to start with just a quick land acknowledgement and recognize that we are based in and doing work in all of the communities that we live and work in. We are situated on the unceded territory of the Wabanaki Confederacy. So once again, thanks for joining us this morning. This is an online learning opportunity hosted by the Community Resilience Partnership regional coordinators and a bunch of our great community partners whom we work with. The learning series is called Building Stronger Communities. It's designed for communities that are already enrolled in the Community Resilience Partnership, often referred to as the CRP, also for communities who are currently enrolling, and also if you're thinking about enrolling. So today we're going to be joined by Efficiency Maine to learn more about their municipal and tribal rebate programs on lighting, HVAC, refrigeration upgrades, electric vehicles, and more. We'll also tour some recent municipal projects that took advantage of these programs. First, I will introduce myself and then my fellow presenters. So my name is Gabe McPhail, and I serve as one of the regional coordinators for the Community Resilience Partnership. I work with colleagues at Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission, Greater Portland Council of Governments.
You are unmuted.
And Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission. We support communities that are enrolled in the Community Resilience Partnership based in York, Cumberland, Saginaw, Lincoln, and Knox counties, as well as communities in Southern Oxford County. So today we have three presenters. Zach Goslin is the Environmental and Resilience Planner at Androscoggin Valley Council of Governments. And Zach runs AVCOG's Solid Waste Technical Assistance Program and is a service provider for the Community Resilience Partnership. He holds a bachelor's degree in environmental science from Husson University. And Claire McGlinchey is the Climate Resiliency Program Manager with the Center for an Ecology-based Economy based in Norway, where she helps Maine communities take advantage of public funding opportunities for decarbonization and energy efficient improvement projects. She comes to CB with an undergraduate degree in environmental science and communications from Temple University and is pursuing a master's in natural resources from UNH. And our presenter from Efficiency Maine, and I think this is Rick Meinke. He is having a little bit of challenge joining us technically today, but we'll get him online here pretty soon. And I'll just go ahead and introduce him. Rick is the Senior Manager for the Business Incentive Program, the Maine Advanced Building Program, the Small Business Direct Install, and the Multifamily Efficiency Program. He's been with Efficiency Maine for 13 years, and his programs are on track to invest more than $16 million this year to help Maine's businesses lower their energy costs and insulate them from rising electricity prices. Rick brings to his work firsthand knowledge of facilities management and electrical systems from his days in the U.S. Navy. So I'm going to just do a quick review, not that we're not all experts now in Zoom. Hopefully most of us have been with Zoom long enough to know some of these Zoom etiquette things. But for those of us who are still trying to figure it out, some reminders just to if you've got distracting stuff going on, we love to see faces, so feel free to keep your video on. But if there's a lot of movement and things are distracting, it'd be great to keep it off. If your name doesn't appear as you would like to be addressed if we call on you during the Q&A, go ahead and rename yourself. There's instructions on the screen to do that. And we encourage you to use the chat feature in Zoom to type in your questions. And we're going to ask that everyone just hold their questions for the end of the conversation where we'll have our Q&A time period. So a quick overview of how the flow will go. We're going to just do a quick intro to the Community Resilience Partnership. We'll make that really brief. We might jump to our case studies if Rick is still having technical challenges in joining, in which case there are a couple of case studies that Claire and Zach will be sharing with us. And then we're also going to learn about the Efficiency Maine programs that made those case studies possible. So let me just give you a quick overview for those of you who are new to the Community Resilience Partnership. It's a relatively new program started last year from the Governor's Office of Policy, Innovation in the Future, also known as GOPIF. The program is aligned with the Maine Won't Wait 4-year climate action plan and helps Maine's communities reduce emissions and prepare for the impact of climate change. The partnership provides both grant funding and direct support to municipal and tribal governments for climate mitigation and adaptation projects. So as a community, if you want to receive benefits of the partnership, like funding and technical assistance, the first thing you need to do is enroll. That's something communities can do on their own, or there's also the opportunity to work with a service provider who is paid for through GOPIF to help enroll you in the partnership, which is great for communities that need a little extra support and don't have the capacity. So once you're enrolled in the partnership, you're eligible to work with regional coordinators who can provide support with project development and coordination, technical assistance, training, help with grants, and particularly the goal for the regional coordinators is to help with those larger, mostly federal funding opportunities required to implement some of your large-scale projects. So I'm going to go off screen and turn things over. I'm going to ask that Claire start us off today, and we'll learn a little bit more from Claire and then Zach about communities and the projects they're doing based on Efficiency Maine incentives and programs. Thanks so much for starting us off today, Claire.
Of course, let me just share my screen here and we'll get started.
You are unmuted.
This is Rick Meinking. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah,
Hi,
we can.
Rick.
We can hear you.
Hi, Rick.
How are you?
How are you?
I just can't seem to get on the Zoom link. It just keeps asking me to register.
Okay.
I did send my PowerPoint via PDF in an email, and maybe somebody can control it and tell me where we are, and I may be able to nimble my way through this.
Sure. How about I give you a call?
How about I give you a call
right now, and you can hop off this call, and we'll work it out.
We'll work it out.
Okay, sounds good. I'll hang up now. I'm sorry about this.
No problem. Thanks, Rick.
No problem. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Claire.
Of course. So we'll let them sort that out and I'll get us started. So thank you all. My name is Claire McGlinchey. I'm the Climate Resiliency Program Manager at CB, and we are a service provider working in Oxford County. So we're serving communities in Region 1 and Region 3. And today I'll be sharing some lessons from our experience playing matchmaker. Sorry for the Valentine's Day pun or joke there, where we paired Efficiency Maine funds with a community action grant to help the town of Woodstock get heat pumps. So we have this case of Woodstock here. We have a lovely picture, kind of their set of town buildings that they have. You see their town office there to the left. And we have a case of a small town. They're under 1,500 residents who's seeking heat pumps for their town office. That was a priority from the very start of our experience working with them as a service provider for the CRP. The town manager really wanted to see it happen. The select board wanted to see it happen. And after we spent the summer working with them on their enrollment process, we wanted to see that happen because it was clear that their town office would get very hot in the summer and they needed a more efficient cooling system. But they also are spending a lot of money on an old oil furnace in the winter. So they're looking for a more efficient heating and cooling system. So we have a town, they like lowered energy costs and emissions reduction, but they didn't want to pay full price when there was a chance to find funds to cover these heat pumps. You know, they're a small town with a small budget. And so we're looking for ways to make that match between the Community Resilience Partnership and some other funds that were out there. So step one was to get them enrolled in the CRP. Like I mentioned, we were working with them over the summer to prepare them for enrollment and applying for their first grant in September of last fall. And so, you know, we went through the full engagement process. We did community engagement sessions. We discussed their enrollment materials, and they passed the resolution to enroll in the partnership. So after that point, it was time to start deciding what projects they were going to pursue in that first round in September. They had already decided on heat pumps, and we also had enough room left over to pursue some other opportunities in that first grant. So their first grant was for the heat pumps. It was for establishing a climate committee and going through an energy audit and doing some low-hanging fruit weatherization for that town office to make the heat pumps even more efficient. So the next step, you know, we had our projects in mind. It was time to check for other relevant funding opportunities. With the Community Resilience Partnership, if you're applying for a community action grant, they really encourage you to look at other relevant funding opportunities. You know, you have up to $50,000 with the community action grant to cover a lot of different types of projects, but there is other funding out there. And so GoPIF really encourages communities to think about using it as match for larger grants or to cover the gap when you're pursuing other funding opportunities. You're also required, if there's other state funding that is relevant for the project you have proposed, you're required to pursue that other funding as well. So in this case, we knew that Efficiency Maine might have some relevant rebates or incentives. And so we found our match. Efficiency Maine small municipality retrofits incentives were announced just in time for us to pursue that in that first grant round. So everything worked out timing wise. That opportunity opened on August 30th. So just in time for that September 20th deadline for the community action grant. And if this sounds interesting, that's still open until this August. And the town size worked out. You know, you need to be a population under 5,000 to count as a small municipality. And so Woodstock definitely qualified there. They had an eligible building, you know, they wanted these installed at the town office. So they met that criteria. And they had an eligible project. They had proposed a variable refrigerant flow heat pump system, which qualified for some pretty extensive incentives through that program. And so we had our match. It was time to start applying. So for the small municipality retrofits for the heat pumps, that was handled by a qualified partner through Efficiency Maine. That was a requirement for receiving that incentive. And so we had a qualified partner provide that quote, and they completed the application for Woodstock. So Woodstock didn't have to worry about muddling through all of the paperwork. That was completed, and they were helped with submission for that opportunity. And then on the community action grant side, CB as a service provider led the preparation and writing for that grant application. So we wrote that to cover the leftover costs of installation for the heat pumps, plus an energy audit, low-hanging fruit weatherization, and the establishment of a climate committee. So altogether, Woodstock, you know, they're a small town with very little capacity left over. They're super busy between the two staff who work in the town office. And so we were able to chip in and really help them get these applications in without them taking on too much extra work or clearing their schedule. And so now, you know, everything worked out. The Efficiency Maine application was accepted, the community action grant was approved. And so it's time for them to enjoy those heat pumps. We're currently in the process of helping Woodstock install those heat pumps now, working with their approved contractor. And so that should be all set for this summer. And the total price of that system was a little over $30,000. And between the Efficiency Maine incentives and the community action grant, Woodstock didn't have to pay for any of that. It was totally covered. And again, with minimal work on their end. And so a few takeaways and recommendations we have for making that Efficiency Maine and Community Resilience Partnership match. Definitely monitor the funding opportunity notices from Efficiency Maine. Efficiency Maine has a great mailing list they send out, and you can join that to receive notices. I also recommend if you are enrolled in the partnership or working with a service provider, you should be receiving bi-monthly updates from your regional coordinator, which contains a list of all relevant funding opportunities, not just Efficiency Maine, but federal funding, other state grants, private foundations. And it is such a great resource. I cannot emphasize it enough. I read the whole thing every week or every 2 weeks, just to make sure I'm up to date. And so definitely keep an eye on that. Remember to use a qualified partner from the list on Efficiency Maine's website to make sure you're qualifying for your incentives and rebates. And again, if you're going for a community action grant, you must pursue other relevant state funding opportunities before you try and take from that bucket of funding that the Community Resilience Partnership has. I'll briefly mention kind of a foil to Woodstock where everything went perfectly. We had another community that also wanted to install heat pumps. In their case, their system did not qualify for the same larger incentives that Woodstock system did. And so in that case, in our inexperience as a service provider, being kind of new to this, we mistakenly thought that there weren't any rebates that that system qualified for. And so the state had to come back to us after we submitted that community action grant and say, hey, this is great. We're going to approve this, but first you need to make sure you are leveraging Efficiency Maine rebates. And so there's a little bit of back and forth. We had to go back to the community, back to that contractor, and make sure that we were taking advantage of the rebates that were available kind of at a base level for those heat pumps. And so it'll save you a lot of time. It'll save GoPIF a lot of time if you're being mindful of that as you go through this process. And then finally, I said this last time I presented, but I really encourage you to maximize your capacity by using the resources available to you. Efficiency Maine has free consulting that they do. They can talk about the projects you're interested in. You can, in Woodstock's case, they worked with a qualified partner who was able to submit that application and get everything prepared. They worked with a service provider to help write that first grant. And so they were able to accomplish a lot by using the resources that were available to them. So thank you so much for your time. I'll just end with one last little pitch that this is just the tip of the iceberg for Efficiency Maine funding that's available. And if you'd like to learn more about some other projects we did in Woodstock around municipal EV charging, I encourage you to attend not the next webinar, but another webinar that'll happen on April 11th at 10 a.m. You'll be able to hear from my colleague, Tony Jambro, about how he got EV charging installed in Woodstock and other places. So thank you so much, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claire. Gabe is still dealing with some technical difficulties, so I am going to take us into our next presentation, which is myself. Just give me 1 second. All righty. So my name is Zach Goslin. As mentioned, I'm with the Androscoggin Valley Council of Governments. I'm the Environmental and Resiliency Coordinator here. My involvement with the Community Resilience Partnership is we previously helped 4 towns enroll in the partnership, and we're currently assisting 5 more towns to enroll for the next round of funding. To talk a little bit about today, AvCog helped towns leverage Efficiency Maine rebate programs in conjunction with the CRP. So as we are identifying project areas, we are letting them know about the various funding sources that Claire mentioned to get their ideas kind of flowing in that direction. In the case that I'm going to be speaking of today, there were 2 towns that leveraged Efficiency Maine incentives in conjunction with the CRP. Those are Greenwood and Carthage, and they both applied for their community action grant with Efficiency Maine incentives in there. So a little background, or both towns have previously utilized the lighting incentives that Efficiency Maine previously offered in the years prior. So the town was very familiar with how the rebate programs work. They updated their interior lights as well as some fans in Carthage. More recently, both towns utilized the small municipality retrofit program, which Claire mentioned. I'm going to touch just a little bit more on that. And Carthage will also apply for rebates on their Energy Star appliances. So the town applied for various upgrades for their appliances, which all meet the Energy Star certification, which is required by the Efficiency Maine programs. So I'll just go ahead and get right into Greenwood. Greenwood's located in Oxford County. They have a small select board. They're a very small town, very modest town office there on the left. And when we were helping Greenwood enroll in the partnership, they identified a few priority projects. Most importantly was the efficient heating and cooling in the municipal buildings, as well as energy savings education. So there is no Efficiency Maine incentive for education, but I just wanted to mention that because it is a great opportunity to educate the community about energy efficient measures. So our goal here is to kind of bring various energy efficient contractors to the area and educate the community. That's just a little side note there. But here are the Greenwood facilities that we looked at when looking to upgrade their heating and cooling systems. You have the fire department on the left, the public garage on the right, and the community building there in the middle. So just another brief overview of the small municipality retrofit program. This was released close to the grant deadline, but we were able to work with the contractors and the municipalities to redo our quotes and get a updated figure up in there for the grant. So the program requires less than 5,000 population. It's for heating, ventilation, air conditioning, lighting, refrigeration. It's for town-owned facilities, and it opened in August of 2020, or open until August of 2023, and all the projects have to be installed by February 28th of 2024. So in the case of Greenwood, the town was looking to upgrade their heating systems and cooling systems in the 3 buildings that I mentioned. So in the town office, all they needed for that little modest building was 2 single-zone heat pumps. The original cost was $11,133 with a savings of $5,600 from the Efficiency Maine program, which offered a 50% discount. The fire department needed 2 VRF units, which Claire mentioned previously. Those qualify for a little bit of a higher incentive. So in this case, it was $31,462 with just over $19,000 in savings, which gave just over 60% discount. And the public works garage was very similar with 2 VRF units. And again, 66% discount on that one. So the total net costs were really $74,000 for the entire project, with savings of $45,408 from this program. So the total cost going towards a community action grant was $28,649. So that kind of made it, since this program was released close to the deadline, the town did get funded for the projects. They weren't able to utilize the full $50,000, as Claire mentioned, to kind of leverage those other funding opportunities that the state offers. So without this, without those Efficiency Maine programs, they wouldn't even have been able to get funded for the full amount of the project cost through the community action grant. So it really saved them a lot of money there. Then we'll move down into Carthage. Carthage, located in Franklin County, has a population of just about 520. They have one store located in the top left, and sorry, I don't know why this isn't moving. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So Carthage, small town, that is their little town office, which used to be a schoolhouse. When we were working with Carthage to enroll them, they identified upgrades to the food pantry, upgrade to energy efficient appliances, as well as install heat pumps for the town office. Carthage really doesn't have a large budget. So in the winter, they rely on an old heating system, which struggles to keep temperature, really only getting up to 60 degrees at some points in the winter. And in the summer, they have no air conditioning whatsoever. And, so it's very hot in there. They're an older population. And the town office acts as the food pantry and an emergency shelter as well. So it's important to realize, not only are we saving money, but we're also allowing the vulnerable populations to have a place to heat and cool if needed. So those were really big priorities for Carthage. We'll start off with their heat pumps. On the left there is their food pantry. The reason I included that picture is they were really hoping to get a climate controlled area for their food pantry. So that is included as one of the 4 heat pumps that will be going in there. As well as on the right, that is their town communication center. That's their town office. So one of them will be going in there as well. And you can see the heat pumps did qualify for the small municipality retrofit program. The total project cost originally was just over $22,000, with $11,200 in savings for a total project cost of $10,817. Touch on the appliances a little bit. So this is the town community center, the town community building, I should say. It's a former Grange Hall, which was moved back way back when by Oxon across the Webb Lake. Pretty cool history there, but the town uses it now, or used to use it before it's unusable, for town meetings, community dinners, hosting private events for people in the town. And in recent years, they haven't been able to do that. So that was another one of their priority areas. So just here are the examples of the 2 different refrigerators. The one on the right is very old, which is still in there right now. And the one on the left is a brand new, shiny, energy efficient one. So again, there are priority projects for appliances, industrial refrigerators, which are Energy Star certified, as you can see on the right. So those would qualify for some Efficiency Maine incentives. Energy Star rated microwaves, air purification units, as well as Energy Star rated refrigerators. So all of these appliances will serve the food pantry, as well as the emergency shelter, and upgrade their non-efficient appliances that they had to energy efficient appliances to cut back on some costs. And that is my presentation for Greenwood and Carthage.
Super. Thanks so much, Zach. And thank you, Claire. Some great examples of community projects using Efficiency Maine rebates and incentives, as well as community resilience partnership funding. So really good to see those, and also really liked the variation of, focus on community priority and, just exactly, it just shines a light on how these grants and incentives really just match what communities are identifying as their priority. So really helpful. So I'm really happy to say that Rick Meinking from Efficiency Maine has been able to join us, and just really appreciate you pushing through the technical challenges, Rick. I know that's not always easy. So we're gonna do our best here. Rick is joining through his phone and has sent his slides via a PDF. So hopefully folks can see the PDF on the screen. I will increase the size of that a little bit too, just to make it a little bit more visible. And Rick, I'll do my best to advance the slides, and yeah, let's take it away.
Well, can you hear me okay?
Certainly can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know why Zoom decided to have a hiccup on my computer today, but I apologize for the snafu. But it's great to be part of your discussions today, and I can only salute the speakers before me to say that we're lucky to have such good poster child as we do with some of our programs. So thank you for contributing to the successes that you're having. If we can go to the next slide, I'm going to kind of go through some of these because I know I took a little bit of time away. But for those that don't know Efficiency Maine, we do not sell electricity. So I know there's been some news about Electricity Maine out there. We are not that. We are the state energy administrators for energy efficiency. And moving to the next slide is just a brief summary of some of our overarching tidbits of info. We're governed by a board of directors, and we receive payments or the funding that we have from several sources, primarily through electric ratepayers and the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. And of course, everybody's been alluding to federal money. Well, we also get to take advantage of that. And at times, even the Maine government provides us with some funding, as they did through the Maine Jobs and Investment Program. So with that, let's get right down into what we're calling electrification. And on the next slide is a quick little definition of electrification. What Efficiency Maine is all in on now, and it's probably no surprise, air source heat pumps, or that technology is a game changer here. They work in cold climates. We've been very pleased with all of the editorial information that's been out since that frigid weekend that we had. People are reporting their heat pumps were still putting out heat when it was minus 44 degrees with the wind chill. This technology does work in Maine, and it's likely here to be the game changer. And Efficiency Maine is all in on that. So how can you participate in getting into this emerging technology? On the next slide, it just is points out that there's no one size fits all in the heat pump technology. And I did see a question come in because it's indicated here on the slide, a VRF. And a VRF system is nothing more than a very sophisticated multi-zone heat pump system. It stands for variable refrigerant flow systems. And they're great for medium to large size buildings that have lots of rooms and require, heat levels that can be independently controlled. So like town halls and the offices involved, schools, classrooms, all of those kind of facilities really make VRF systems really attractive. The one advantage that you have with a VRF that you don't have with the traditional heat pump systems is that you can simultaneously heat and cool. So you can imagine a big office building, a town hall, or even a school where maybe during the morning you get a lot of sun gain on one part of the building and the other parts in shade. Well, you no longer have to worry about turning on air conditioning systems on one side and heating on the other side. Let the VRF do that for you. So it's a really slick, sophisticated heat pump system. And of course, most folks recognize that the mini splits, or those small heat pump units that you see going in homes that have a unit outside and maybe one or two inside. Those still make very good solutions for some size commercial buildings. And then we have a whole array of different kind of heat pump systems that meet the needs of other building types. If we can go to the next slide, I just want to talk about this for a moment because I want to make sure everybody understands that even when it's minus 15 degrees, your heat pump will be putting out cost-effective, energy-saving BTUs. What this graph is trying to illustrate is three different types of technology used in the heating world, so to speak. You have your traditional fossil fuel type boiler, hydronic systems that run hot water through, and those typically have an efficiency. If you can get an 80% efficient oil boiler, you're doing very well. And so just so you know, 1 unit of energy that goes into that 80% efficient boiler, you're only getting 80% of the energy out of it. So 20% is lost. And if you look at a resistive heater, a baseboard electric, that's a 1-to-1. So you're putting in 1 unit of energy to get 1 unit of energy, heat energy back out. Well, if you look at this blue line, that's the heat pump. So at times, when you put in 1 unit of energy to the heat pump, you can get 3, 4 times the energy output from an air source heat pump. So they're more than 100% efficient. So I just want to make sure you all understand, and this graph kind of represents, even at 0 degrees, your heat pump is more efficient than an electric resistive heating system or a fossil fuel heating system. So with that, the next slide, it just is a couple of pictures of what we're talking about. The first, you've probably seen those in lots of homes and lots of businesses. Those are the ductless units that go inside of commercial buildings. Down below that is actually a VRF system that's attached to a school building in Freiburg. And you can see it's funky looking because it has some snow guards on it and everything like that. You remove those guards and it just looks like 2 towers side by side with a bank of 4. So VRF systems are definitely scalable, and you wouldn't know they're VRF because you go inside and there's common diffusers, or these indoor units look like they're in commercial buildings today. Energy recovery ventilator is that last picture. We'll talk briefly about that. That actually preheats outside air that you need to bring in to your building, but you can pre-warm that with the air that is being exhausted out because there's requirements for ventilation rates. And schools is a big commercial building that requires a lot of ventilation. So using ERVs, you can certainly reduce your energy costs. So let's look at opportunities right for the audience we have here this morning, municipalities and schools. So going to the next, okay, you're already there. We have what we call an FON, that's a funding opportunity notice. We issue one for schools that are targeting right now the types of public schools that are made up of multiple towns. So we're looking at the MSADs, the AOSs, the RSUs. These are small communities that all have a central school system that they go to. So we really wanted to target small rural Maine areas. And so that's the eligibility right now for this funding opportunity. And there's some conditions on conditioned space that we won't get too in depth, but if your building is greater than 50,000 square feet, wonderful. We can certainly work through the FON. And we also have all of these incentives through all of these different technologies are available all the time for all commercial property. So even if your school is not eligible, you still have a pathway with Efficiency Maine to go ahead and do the electrification in your building. If we go to the next slide, that one relates just to the municipalities, like the town of Greenwood that you heard about. Towns fewer than 5,000 right now will qualify for this. And we're looking at all of these types of eligible buildings. I will note that water districts and sewer districts can do lighting only through this funding opportunity notice. The reason being is when you talk about HVAC or heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, those get a little bit complicated because they have some processes going on inside the building. So we would defer HVAC projects from those kind of buildings to our custom program, where we can do a little bit more fine tuning on the engineering and calculate energy savings based on what's going on inside the building. So let's look at some of the incentives that we have to leverage with you as you move forward. This one being your high performance heat pumps. That's that one unit outside with a unit inside. For everybody today that qualifies for the high performance heat pump solution, it's $1,600. The FON is doubling that. So we're giving 50% more incentive for those municipalities and schools that qualify for the funding opportunity notices. Energy recovery units, same thing. This is all part of your ventilation system. You may not even have those, but we'll certainly provide incentives as indicated here to be used when your qualified partners are speccing out your project for you. So those are pretty good incentives. The variable refrigerant flow is next. And those we pay by conditioned square foot. So if you have a 50,000 square foot building that is conditioned with a VRF, whether it's single phase or 3-phase, we provide $8 a square foot. That's if the VRF is configured to be in the heat pump only mode. So there's two ways of installing them: heat pump only VRF, or a heat pump or a VRF with energy recovery, not using ERVs or energy recovery ventilators. But this is what makes those VRFs heating and cooling simultaneously. That makes it possible by configuring it in the heat recovery mode. There is an extra cost to doing that because you have to run a third pipe. So we give a slightly higher incentive to $10 a square foot through the FON, and $6 for anybody that wants to put in a VRF system. So that's the incentives for those. Also mentioned is lighting, and we have lots of different lighting types. This is just to illustrate that we have interior, and don't forget your exterior, your parking lot lights that are on 4,680 hours a year. Switching those to LED is a significant energy saver. The next slide kind of indicates the incentives through the FON. So what we look at through your contractor, they develop your lighting plan for you, and it will calculate the energy savings and the cost associated based on the input that they do on our kind of a workbook that we have for them. And it calculates the first year energy savings. Based on that calculation, we pay 36 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's that first year energy savings times 36 cents. But we cap it at 85% of the measure cost. So you're going to have to contribute some funding, but we're going to pick up 85% of that. So that's a pretty good deal. Right now, under the regular program that Efficiency Maine offers all commercial buildings, is 28 cents, and we cap it at 65 So you can see there's an increase in the savings calculation for kilowatt hours, and we will cap it at a higher rate. So the most you'll end up spending is 15% of that cost. And here describes all the different pathways with lighting. Your electrician or your contact with a distributor like Gilman or Gray Bar, those kind of folks, they actually come out and do assessments for you and can help you calculate that first year energy savings. So how do we get started? It's not mission impossible. We're here to help you. And we have a fairly simple application process for participating in the FON. And we'll just go over that very quickly because I see our time's coming up. So the next slide is going to get you into the schedule. So going to the schools, we did issue this back in June. It's been going around. We have roughly $500,000 in projects already. Applications will still continue to be received through May 31st, and you have till December 31st to get the project done. So there's still ample time to get the ball rolling and get your projects developed and then complete them. Likewise with the municipalities, the next slide shows that your application can be sent in through August 31st, and the projects need to be done this time next year. So you've got quite a window here to work on getting your projects developed, submitted to us. So how do you go about getting your team together? That's pass over the next slide. I want to point out, there we go. There's two kinds of teams. One kind of team that, you know, as illustrated here on the picture to the your left as you're looking at it, you know, Superman and Batman, they all kind of operated in a silo. So they were the superheroes that stood alone. It usually is going to require a team. And I often reference how the teamwork at the 1982 Winter Olympics with the US hockey team. They all worked together to accomplish the goal of winning the gold medal. So what do we look like as a team? Well, you're obviously going to need some municipal lead, whether it's the superintendent, the town council, what have you. They need to be part of our team here because they're going to be the cheerleaders that usher in the support for these projects. Obviously, the financial decision maker needs to be in the equation here because they hold the purse, so to speak. The key here for you folks is to obtain a supplier of the materials and somebody that will install those. And I'll show you a way if you don't already have an existing relationship. But Efficiency Maine has what we call a qualified partner network. These are hundreds of suppliers and installers of all different types of technologies that have engaged with Efficiency Maine, more specifically the commercial programs that we run, and will provide the support you need in order to get the information you need to submit your application. So they can do the assessments on your buildings and determine the types of projects and products that you need. And your suppliers, Maine-based suppliers all over the state, have heat pump technology, some on the shelf, some they can help design them to go in your building so you know exactly how many tons of VRF you're going to need, how many indoor units you need, where they need to go. They're really a smart crowd that can certainly help. You may already know and already have relationships with these kind of folks, and we encourage you to use them. We've tried to provide them with the same information, and certainly they're there to assist you in developing your project. And then finally, that third person is Efficiency Maine. We want to get with you and help you. So the next slide, real quick, because we are. Oh, did we pass the locator? Yeah. Okay. if you go one slide before that, you will get to our website. There we go. You can locate by whatever you want. If you want lighting or heat pumps or all of them, you can do the search engine. It'll produce the results as you see on this slide. And you can actually call 2 or 3 and say, hey, I'd like to move forward with a project. Come help me out. And they're, as we say, we're the eHarmony of Efficiency Maine. We like to develop relationships. Typically, if you have a good experience with the first project, hopefully you'll come back and do more with us. There's no limit to the projects that you can do. Moving forward, we can submit the projects for approval. That gets down to the next slide. Shows you that really it's 2 forms. The attachment A that's on our website, based on those websites that we're going to show you here in a moment, you can get the application form and a commitment form between you and your contractor. And then we need the material price or quote to the customer. How much is the materials going to cost the customer? So that will come from your qualified partner. Moving down, submit your applications based on the email shown on the next slide. Send it to SIP@Efficiency Maine. We'll certainly get that directly and we'll start reviewing the projects. There may be some back and forth between the review team at Efficiency Maine and your contractor, your qualified partners, just to make sure everybody's on the same wavelength. We'll pre-approve these projects. Moving to the next slide. If I was showing this in a slide format, it would be kind of animated, so it's kind of clunky with a PDF. But going to the next slide is a sample of an approved scope of work that we will send back to you for signature, saying, okay, you accept the Efficiency Maine incentives and you want to move forward and your contractor's ready to go. Sign the approved scope of work, and at that point, you're got a green light to move forward and order your materials and start the project installation. Kind of jumped ahead. If you go up a couple of slides, you will see that we wish you good luck. And the last slide I have here is just a wrap-up slide that says we're available for questions anytime. You can call. This number will get you directly involved, directly to the Efficiency Maine review team that is looking at your application. And again, that's our email that you can also send your applications to, or any questions that you might have along the way. I hope I didn't take too much time, and again, apologize for the technology, but happy to answer any questions.
Super. Thanks so much, Rick. And thanks for accommodating too. We appreciate you still being here and making it all work. So thanks so much. And we'll put Rick's contact information, or the Efficiency Maine contact information that's here on the slide, in the chat for you all. And we have a few minutes for questions. So I would encourage folks. I know that both Claire and Rick answered the VRF question as variable refrigerant flow, and we're able to describe that a bit more. Don't know if there's any other questions that folks have, but I just encourage you to come right off of mute and ask those questions. Anyone have any questions for Rick or Claire or Zach? Well, I'm not seeing any hands or not seeing anyone come off of mute.
Prepared.
We have one question in the chat. Will there be incentives for large entities in the future?
That's a great question. And as I said, some of this funding is our regular funding stream and some is federal funding. That federal funding is going to be around for 3 years. And what we will do is, once this first phase is done, we will likely not get all the money invested through this first round. So we will have another round, and it is probably going to increase the eligibility. We were really focusing, because of the main jobs and investment program funding, really going after the small rural areas that are primarily on fossil fuels, oil and propane, and shifting them to the heat pump technology. So quick, long answer to your question, stay tuned. But again, if you really have a need to move forward, those incentives are available for any commercial customer. The FON, the funding opportunity, the elevated incentives, the eligibility could expand. But as they say, now is never a better time to shift over to energy efficient equipment.
Great, thanks, Rick. Well, we're at 11 o'clock, folks. So if anyone else has a question that they want to put in the chat or come off of mute and ask, now would be your time. Well, I'm not seeing anyone, so I just want to give another great thank you to Rick and Zach and Claire. Thank you so much for your time today and sharing all the great information with us. And hopefully we've inspired some projects and you have information to move forward with. And you will, everyone who's registered will be receiving an email follow-up from Zach with some links and resources, a recording to the presentation, as well as slides from the presenters. So just want to thank everyone for being here, and we hope that you're able to attend the next Building Stronger Communities presentation. And if I was smart, I would tell you when that was, but I don't have it in front of me. So hopefully through the normal channels that you got this information, you will find that as well. So thank you so much. And thanks again to our presenters.
I think we might have
Oh,
one
hello.
more question.
I do have a question.
Please,
Can you hear me?
we can.
How does one enroll in this? The first step is to enroll, is that right?
Are you referring to the Community Resilience Partnership, or are you referring to Efficiency Maine incentives?
Well, I guess, does one need to go through the Community Resilience Project? Whatever it's, is that right? Yes, partner to do the efficiency in order to
Nope.
apply.
No,
okay.
Efficiency Maine is open, as Rick mentioned, open to anyone. And then there's particular funding opportunities that are available to with specific criteria at specific times.
Oh, I see. So
go ahead, sorry.
well, so is there an advantage to one or the other, doing it just with Efficiency Maine or doing the partnership? Because I'm thinking about the town of China, we do have a population of less than 5,000. So we would qualify for the program.
Well, I will, I'm going to defer to Claire or Zach, who can talk quickly about the advantage of enrolling in the partnership to maximize the efficiency, the incentives you can get through Efficiency Maine. Do either one of you want to take that question?
Yeah, I don't mind. Basically, yeah, if you, through both Claire and I, we work in conjunction with the Community Resilience Partnership. So those communities that get enrolled into the partnership can qualify for $50,000 no match grants. And then within that $50,000, you can leverage Efficiency Maine incentives to go with that. So in that case of Greenwood, the total project cost was, $28,000 after the incentives. But because they are enrolled in the partnership and are looking to receive a grant, they can get $50,000 from the state and use the Efficiency Maine incentives to lower the costs of the project. So it's just an additional funding source for the state.
Great. All right, thank you very much. I'm excited.
Thanks for the question. Anyone else before we sign off here? Okay,
I did
great.
notice,
Oh, sorry.
sorry, I noticed a question in the chat that I don't think we addressed. Are backup systems recommended for heat pump installations?
I can take that one.
Thanks, Rick.
The simple answer is no. They can be your primary and only source of heating and cooling. Efficiency Maine, if you have an existing heating system, we do not require you to remove it, but we do require that the whatever heat pump technology you put in, whether it's small heat pumps or a VRF system, it has to be configured so it's the driver. It's the one that is used all the time. New construction, you will find that they're not putting in any combustion products. It's all electric buildings now. So they do work as the primary and only, but I know it's a confidence. And what we're hearing is sometimes contractors are telling folks it might be best to shut off your heat pump system when it gets really cold. We really don't want you to do that. We want you to use your heat pumps to the maximum. It's the most cost effective, regardless of what system you have. And if you can get that to be the driver, you will realize the savings that these systems can provide you.
Thank you, Rick, and thanks for the question. Thanks for flagging that, Claire. All right, well, it's 5 past, so I want to respect folks' time, so we will end the call today, but thank you all so much, and once again, thanks to our presenters, and you will get a follow-up with the recording, some notes, and some slides. Thank you all.
Thanks, Gabe. I'm sorry about the technology again.
Glad to have you here. Thank you.